रंग-रोधक सीमेंट।
Markets take a breather, snap 4-day winning streak. Sensex loses over 55 points to end at 23,815. Nifty ends flat. RBI panel report calls for single bank licensing regime. Panel also suggests that the government should either privatize or merge banks it owns. And Google test drives its driverless car. Demonstration marks the company's most concerted effort to provide an up-close look at the cars conceived 5 years ago in its secretive Google X division. Hello and welcome to Business Wrap. I am Sidhant Sibal and let's start with the stock market action. Key benchmark indices edged lower in choppy trade as increase in crude oil prices triggered concerns about India's current account deficit and fiscal deficit. Investor sentiment was also subdued after the consumer price inflation numbers for April released on Monday showed that retail inflation rose from 8.3% in March 2014 to 8.6% in April 2014. The 30-share Sensex closed 56 points down at 23,815 and the 50-share Nifty closed flat at 7,109. Nifty ended almost unchanged from yesterday's closing levels. Among the 30-share Sensex pack, 15 stocks gained and rest of them fell. Losers on the chart were Dr. Reddy's Lab, Mahindra & Mahindra, HDFC, HDFC Bank and RIL, which were down by between 4 to 1%. Gainers on the chart were Tata Steel, Coal India, Bajaj Auto, NTPC and SSLT, which were up by between 5 to 1%. The market breadth indicating the overall health of the market was positive. The money and the forex markets were closed today on account of Buddha Jayanti. Well, on to European market action. European stocks edged lower on Wednesday as investors weighed the latest round of inflation data and earnings report. Key benchmark indices in the UK, Germany and France were off by between 0.05% to 0.24%. On to Asian stock market action. Asian stocks rose on Wednesday as US equity gauges held at record highs on Tuesday, that's 13th of May 2014. Key benchmark indices in Indonesia, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore and Hong Kong were off by between 0.64% to 1.41%. Key benchmark indices in China and Japan were off by 0.14%. Well, meanwhile, regulators are cautious as markets rally. RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan has said that the central bank is prepared for volatility after a record surge in the market. Well, Finance Minister P. Chidambaram has asked regulators to remain alert and take necessary action to curb excessive volatility. Meanwhile, SEBI, the market regulator, said that it is also closely watching market situation and there is no need for anybody to worry. SEBI chairman UK Sinha said that all mechanisms are in place and it will take prompt action against any wrongdoing. Markets in past few sessions have hit a record high and this is the main reasons that the regulators have been put on alert. When the Reserve Bank of India appointed panel headed by P.J. Nayak, former chairman Axis Bank, has recommended a radical reform for Indian banking system. The RBI panel proposed that the government should cut its stake in state banks to below 50% and establish fully empowered bank boards. The panel also recommended that the government investment in PSU banks be transferred to a banking investment company just like in the UK. More in this report.
Asked diluting government stake in PSBs below 50%. The government should cut its holding in public sector banks. Panel criticized the way in which the lenders are being currently governed. The panel, headed by ex-chairman of Axis Bank P.G. Nayak, suggested that the government either privatize, merge the bank it owned or design a radically new governance structure to allow PSBs to compete successfully and avoid excessive dependence on government. This report has come when the banking sector is facing huge problems in regard to bad loans and NPAs. RBI's discretion should be supreme and Finance Ministry interference should be on a low level. NAYAC's panel recommendations on governance of bank boards as follows. Removal of external constraints on state-run banks. Existing laws governing lender must be repealed and banks should be governed under Companies Act. Upgrading the quality of board deliberation of state-run banks in terms of their integrity, risk, compliance, customer protection. Creating bank investment company to hold stakes. Constituting Bank Boards Bureau for smooth functioning. Also following a uniform licensing regime. Profit-based commissions for non-executive members should be allowed. Also, maximum age limit for the directors should be 65. That is, the term should be for 5 years for the directors and for executive members it should be 3 years. The committee also recommended some changes on the making of new category of investors called authorized bank investors with 20% of equity stake. Giving up control in state banks would reform banking sector. The shares of public sector undertaking banks are trading higher, up by 3%, after the committee appointed by RBI made some radical suggestions regarding the government's control over nationalized bank. Business Bureau, DT News.
Well, how many of you have watched the movie Confessions of a Shopaholic? Well, the movie is all about the ills of having a credit card and going on a shopping spree. Having a credit card for an individual is a normal practice, but it's also a vicious circle. So how to nip in the bud that urge to spend through your credit card? Here is a special report.
Credit cards easy to use, although difficult to understand. Sometimes they tend to behave as your best friend, but the truth lies beneath the line. According to Worldline ePay, the number of credit card users has risen from 20.3 million in financial year 2014. However, for the first-time users, credit cards are especially prone to be misused. Although we tend to be swipe happy, these cards come with a special feature known as debt trap. Here are some ways by which you can avoid yourself from being trapped. Understanding the card. Credit cards come with a range of interest rates, fees and reward. On card provider website, you will find cards segregated into various sections: travel, fuel, shopping. Try to understand and compare grace period, interest rates, membership fee, renewal or annual fees. If you cannot afford, do not buy. Credit cards are not a source of free money. In fact, using a credit card is taking a loan. Increasing the credit limit may sound attractive, but avoid borrowing more than 20% of your annual income. If you are using credit card at an ATM, remember, fee is attached for each withdrawal. Remember the due date. This factor is the real killer, as interest rates can be quite high from 1.99% to 3.5%. The worst part is interest is charged on entire standing amount and is applied from the day of purchase, not from beginning of the month. Also, late payment charges worsen the situation by adding burden of cost. Also, points can be lost if the amount is ahead of due date. Paying off full amount. Card issuers give you the option of paying minimum amount by due date, which is usually 2.5 to 20% of the total amount due. Any payment paid that's less than the total amount will have an interest charged on it, making payment easy. Credit cards can be smart tool if used the right way. To avoid all the damage, simply create an electronic clearing system mandate with the bank to automatically debit the credit card bill amount every month. Business Desk, DT News.
Well, on to the Indian economy, the situation of the Indian economy. Well, OECD has said that there is no sign of growth revival for the Indian economy. The OECD said that India is expected to see a weak economic growth. However, emerging economies will do better in long to medium term. Recently, OECD lowered the global growth forecast to 3.4% for 2014 amidst risks including financial tensions in some emerging markets.
There is no sign of immediate relief for emerging economies. According to Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development report, India, China and other major emerging economies are expected to see weak growth even as momentum remains stable in the developed world. Besides India and China, OECD has projected weak growth for Brazil and Russia as well. The estimates are based on composite leading indicators which are designed to anticipate turning points in economic activity. These indicators point to weakening growth in major emerging economies. India's composite leading indicators stood at 97.7 in March, unchanged from the preceding month. In January, it was 97.8 compared to 97.9 recorded in December. Reserve Bank of India also projected an economic growth rate of less than 5% for the last fiscal. Earlier this month, OECD had projected Indian economy to grow 4.9% in 2014. According to the OECD's economic outlook, world economy is likely to grow at 3.4% in 2014 due to poor performance in developing economies like India and China. The OECD lowered the projection from its previous forecast of 3.6%. Among the major advanced economies, recovery is best established in the United States, which is projected to grow by 2.6% in 2014 and 3.5% in 2015. The euro area will see a return of positive growth after 3 years of contraction, 1.2% in 2014 and 1.7% in 2015. Business Bureau, DD News.
Well, now news from the world of technology. Well, Mercedes, BMW, Toyota, Nissan, Audi, major car companies say they are working to make cars drive themselves, but all are lagging behind Google. Driverless car actually are supposed to be much safer than cars driven by people because they do not make human error. Google recently took dozens of reporters on a test drive. So how was their drive? Here is a special report. Google's self-driving car technology will not be available for several more years, but the company is already beginning the job of making public comfortable with its futuristic vehicles. A fleet of Google's robot cars ferried more than 24 reporters around Mountain View, California, which is the Google headquarters, in a 30-minute ride along which it showcased their ability to automatically and safely navigate around the city streets, packed with cyclists, pedestrians and traffic signs. The demonstration marked the company's most concerted effort to date to provide an up-close look at the car conceived 5 years ago in its secretive Google X division.
At first it's exciting because it's new, it's technology that you haven't seen before, and it's driving itself. But after about 5 minutes, everyone's, well, is that all it does as it's driving along? Right? So we think it'll be, it's just incredibly common once you get used to it.
Google founder Larry Page and Sergey Brin touted the driverless car as revolutionary technology that could eventually sharply reduce fatalities on the road, but it remains to be seen whether it is ready for widespread use. For self-driving cars, consumer acceptance and regulation may be as much as an issue as perfecting the technology. Google will not say whether it will build its own cars or license the technology to automakers, nor it will provide a firm date for when the car will be available. Co-founder Brin said that the technology could be available by 2017.
Over the last year and a half, we've moved from driving freeways to driving on surface streets, and we're now kind of at the point where we're confident that can happen. We really think that making vehicles that are fully self-driving, that'll take you from your house to grandma's house without you ever having to drive, is really the big step forward, and we're very excited about it.
Google's car have never caused an accident in a self-driving mode, although they have been involved in a few fender benders, such as an incident in which a Google car stopped at a red light got rear-ended. Unlike human drivers, self-driving cars never get drowsy behind the wheel and they can react to unforeseen situations more quickly. Business Bureau, DD News. Well, I like to take one of those driverless cars. Well, time for a short break. After the break, we will tell you how the Indian aviation sector is on the cusp of a big change.
सीमेंट सस्ता नहीं, सबसे अच्छा।
प्रधान जी, हमारे हैंडपंपों में पानी नहीं आ रहा।
हमारे बोरिंग में भी पानी नहीं आ रहा, फसल सूख रही है।
हमारे हैंडपंपों में पानी इसलिए नहीं आ रहा क्योंकि भूमि जल स्तर बहुत बहुत नीचे चला गया है। इसे रिचार्ज करना होगा। चेक डैम और तालाबों द्वारा जल का फिर से भरण करना होगा और साथ ही इस बात का भी ध्यान रखें कि तालाबों में कपड़े ना धोएं और जानवरों को ना नहलाएं। इससे जल प्रदूषित होता है। जल प्रदूषण न करें, जल संरक्षण करें।
जल बचाएं, कल बचाएं।
मिलावट महामारी बनती जा रही है।
मुझे तो सबसे ज्यादा फिक्र देश के बच्चों और युवाओं की है।
अगर वो हेल्दी नहीं रहेंगे तो भारत स्वस्थ नहीं होगा।
तो क्या कुछ नहीं हो सकता?
बिल्कुल हो सकता है। मिलावट से ये जंग सहारा क्यू शॉप लड़ रहा है।
ये जंग आज पूरे भारत को लड़नी है और खासतौर से युवाओं।
ये जंग क्वालिटी से ही लड़ी जा सकती है।
और क्वालिटी का दूसरा नाम है
सहारा क्यू शॉप।
क्यू प्रोडक्ट्स अब भारत के 450 शहरों में 1150 से भी ज्यादा एक्सक्लूसिव सहारा क्यू शॉप्स और चुनिंदा नजदीकी किराना स्टोर्स में उपलब्ध है।
सहारा क्यू शॉप से जुड़िए,
क्योंकि क्वालिटी हम सबका हक है।
Well, domestic airlines are gearing up for increased competition with new entrants making their way into the Indian skies. Malaysia's Air Asia with its aggressive pricing and Singapore Airlines with its brand name is all set to fly soon and add up to the war in the sky. Here is a special report.
As AirAsia India and Tata Singapore Airlines readies to enter the domestic market, new airfare war is likely to erupt in the Indian airspace. AirAsia India, the joint venture between Malaysia-based AirAsia, Tata Sons and Telestra Trade Space, recently won an operating permit to launch its services in the country. AirAsia is known for its aggressive pricing worldwide and would try to undercut its competitors' fares by more than 30%. Another new joint venture between Tata Sons and Singapore Airlines is hoping to get its air operator permit and is ready to start service in September. Domestic carriers led by SpiceJet have been offering discounted fares and promotional schemes for the past few months to ensure higher bookings. And more competition is expected to drive down fares at most airlines. Experts say airlines are expected to come up with more such schemes with the intensifying competition. The lower cost of flights will definitely be a bonanza for travelers, but it could push some airlines deep into the red. The combined losses of Indian carriers is likely to exceed $1.2 billion in the fiscal year ended March. Further competition is coming from the new A380 service into India by both Singapore Airlines and Emirates. The increased seat capacity and aggressive fare cutting by new market entrants will be posing a serious challenge to existing airlines with their short to medium range narrow body fleets. Further disadvantage for Indian carriers is on international routes due to lack of code share alliances. With all the airfare discounts on offer, there has been slower expansion in passenger travel. Around 61 million people traveled on domestic flights in India in 2030. That is an expansion of 4% from the year earlier, but still slower than double-digit growth recorded only a few years ago. The recent domestic air traffic figures released by the International Air Transport Association showed that Indian Airlines in March this year recorded a negative of 0.7% revenue passenger kilometer, which measures actual passenger traffic. Business Bureau, DT News.
Well, now on to other top business stories of the day. Well, Yahoo has acquired Blink, a mobile application that allows users to share messages that self-destruct in order to post the talent behind it. The app will reportedly be shut down in coming weeks so that Blink's 7-member team can work on Yahoo's smart communication products. WhatsApp is focused on increasing its active user base from current 500 million to 1 billion in a year. Neeraj Arora, a top Indian-American executive of the company, has said that nothing has changed after the $19 billion acquisition by Facebook. Well, Chinese authorities have accused a British GlaxoSmithKline executive of ordering staff to bribe hospital officials to use its products. The move helped generate billions of yuans in illegal revenue. The UK man, Mark Reilly, and 2 other colleagues were also suspected of bribing government officials in Shanghai and Beijing. Well, the chief executive of US drugs giant Pfizer will be back in front of UK MPs on Wednesday, facing fresh questions from the Commons Science Committee. On Tuesday, Ian Reid answered questions from the Business Committee. The MPs from the British Parliament want assurances that a takeover of AstraZeneca would not be against UK's interest. Well, the Bombay Stock Exchange has been in existence for close to 140 years. It is the oldest exchange in Asia and also the largest in the world by number of shares listed. The BSE's Vision 2035 is to have 250 million investors registered with it from current 25 million investors and market capitalization of $15 trillion from today's $1.25 trillion. Well, Jaipur Metro would most likely start its commercial operations in the Pink City by end of August this year. The trial run of the metro will most probably begin in July on its first phased route from Mansarovar to Chandipur, that's 10 kilometers. Well, Reliance Industry chairman Mukesh Ambani's skyscraper residence in Mumbai is the most expensive billionaire home in the world according to the Forbes list. Ambani's 27-story, 400,000 square foot skyscraper home Antilia tops the Forbes list of the most expensive homes in the world. Well, in a bid to expedite coal auction process, the centre has announced a 9-member panel which will identify more blocks in addition to already selected 54 mines through sales in competitive bidding. The committee will also select blocks from areas explored after 2008. And finally, the Competition Commission of India has ordered a fresh probe against internet major Google for alleged abuse of its dominant position in the online search advertising space. The Fair Trade Watchdog is already probing the internet major for alleged anti-competitive business practices. Well, Japan's economy takes center stage for the Q1 GDP growth figures, which is due out tomorrow. Also, Bajaj Auto is expected to report Q4 numbers, and it's upbeat. Recently, Managing Director of Bajaj Autos, Rajiv Bajaj, said that the company will report its best ever profit for financial year 14. So, what is expected to make news in Asia in coming weeks? Here is a special report.
Japan's economy will be front and center on Thursday, with first quarter economic growth figures out bright and early. The world's number 3 economy likely grew at its fastest pace in a year from January to March, supported by consumers rushing to spend before a sales tax increase, the first in more than a decade. On the downside, persistent weak demand for exports could dent the data. Three-wheeled vehicles and motorbikes from India in the spotlight, with Bajaj Auto expected to report fourth quarter earnings. Analysts are cautiously optimistic on Bajaj. The firm is starting to post strong sales in overseas markets such as Africa. The world's largest three-wheeled vehicle maker is expected to report a slight increase in fourth quarter profit, though it's fighting for market share with rivals such as Honda. And finally, art dealers will be showing off their wares in Hong Kong as Art Brazil opens for the second year. The city has been flourishing as an arts hub, with dealers and auction houses seeking to sell into China's growing wealth and appetite for fine art. The question hangs as to whether China's slowing economy will dull demand for expensive paintings. Business Bureau, DD News.
Well, Congress President Sonia Gandhi is hosting a farewell dinner for Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh this evening. Senior Congress leaders and Dr. Singh's cabinet colleagues are expected to be present during the dinner. The Prime Minister would be demitting office on May the 17th, a day after the Lok Sabha elections results are announced. He had earlier this year announced his retirement after a decade at helm of 2 successive UPA governments. The Prime Minister will also address the people in a farewell speech. Well, time now for the recap of the major stories. Markets take a breather, snap 4-day winning streak. Sensex loses over 55 points to end at 23,815. Nifty ends flat. RBI panel report calls for a single bank licensing regime. Panel also suggests that the government should either privatize or merge banks it owns. And Google test drives its driverless car. Demonstration marks the company's most concerted effort to provide an up-close look at the cars conceived 5 years ago in its secretive Google X division. But that's all in this edition of Business Wrap. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.
बिजनेस ट्रैप वाज ब्रॉट टू यू बाय श्री अल्ट्रा रेड ऑक्साइड, भारत का एकमात्र जंग रोधक सीमेंट।